Mr. President, I rise to talk about the shutdown as my colleague, the senior senator from Minnesota, just did, and grateful for her comments on what's happening to people in Minnesota, the direct impact, the direct adverse impact of this shutdown on their lives. We've all seen it. We've all experienced it. I'll be referring to specific testimony from people who wrote me letters, but let me just highlight one experience I had the other day at a food bank in central Pennsylvania, just miles from our state capital, a food bank that serves some 27 of our 67 counties. And I was talking about how this shutdown could end, that the president wanted the shutdown, he got the shutdown, but he could also end it. But prior to the discussion we had, behind us was a table where they had an entire table full of food items that food bank and others in that region of Pennsylvania were delivering to federal workers, especially TSA agents, who cannot afford food because they're working but not being paid. Hard to comprehend that so many veterans around the country who are once again serving their country, serving in the government as they served in combat or in the military, serving again yet being left out in the cold, so to speak, sometimes literally, but obviously left out when they don't have a paycheck. So this is real life. We debate bills and budgets and appropriations here in Washington. We have debates on the floor and debates and discussions in the hallways, but for these folks, this is real life. I'll just point to maybe 5 examples in Pennsylvania. Adams County, which is in the southernmost part of our state, where Gettysburg is, just on the Maryland border, but not a big county by population. Here's what one individual said, talking about marrying, this individual's married to a federal worker, and I will just quote her in part. She said, and I quote, "We are expecting our first child this summer, and prior to December 22nd, we're excited about the future and potential of 2019. Now we are anxious, sad, and angry, not knowing where money will come from to buy necessities for this child, let alone medical expenses related to birth and daycare." She goes on to say later in the letter, "We're now in real and serious danger of losing our home and our vehicles. We will soon have to choose between buying groceries or paying for the electric bill." And she goes on from there. One Pennsylvanian in Adams County. Here's one from Cambria County, the county where Johnstown is in the southwestern part of our state. This individual said, "My husband is a federal employee who has been furloughed." She goes on to say, "We have a son in elementary school. It's about time for spring sports signups, but we don't know how we're going to pay our bills or buy groceries. It's our son's birthday in less than 2 weeks. We canceled his birthday party to save some money." Cambria County, Pennsylvania. The third one I'll highlight is from Delaware County, one of the big suburban Philadelphia counties, big population county. Here's in part what this individual said. "My in-laws are selling their home and cannot go to settlement because the FHA will not close a mortgage for the buyer." That's among several things they said. In the interest of time, I won't read all of it. But we hear those stories all the time of people not being able to complete the work on a mortgage because of the impact on the FHA. Here's Montgomery County, also a suburban Philadelphia county. This individual said, "I am a law enforcement park ranger for the National Park Service. I'm the sole provider for a family of 4 to include 2 young children. Not knowing when I will get paid again is putting undue stress on the entire family." That word keeps coming up either directly in these letters or by implication. Stress. Over and over again, the stress that it's putting on, this shutdown is putting on families across America. And the last one, Mr. President, I'll highlight is from Warren County, in the northwestern corner of our state, much smaller population county than the two suburban Philadelphia counties I just mentioned, Montgomery and Delaware. Here's what this individual said in Warren County. Both my wife and I are federal employees working for the United States Department of Agriculture, Forest Service actually. We're also both veterans. We will be using our savings to live off of and charging food to our credit cards if we must. Mr. President, it goes on. And I know you have seen the same thing. We've all seen and heard much about this. Not enough time tonight to go through every letter, but this is what has to be the priority of all of us, to be responsive to these cries for help, to be responsive to Americans who are just asking us to open the government. Open the government so they can be paid, so they can make ends meet, so they can pay for groceries, so they can pay the mortgage or even have a mortgage in some cases. And also to pay for basic necessities, and sometimes even just paying for a birthday party for their son. Over and over again we hear these stories. I was encouraged, as my colleague from Minnesota made reference to, that today we had 2 votes. There's a high or a likely expectation prior to the votes that they wouldn't get enough to pass. But at least we were voting. At least we were voting on one measure that one side favored and the other measure that my side of the aisle favored. I was also encouraged that 5 Republicans voted for the Democratic proposal, which is very simple. Fund the government, open the government, and adding disaster assistance for that emergency, the emergency of a natural disaster, the emergency that was in part of the lives of people adversely affected by so many natural disasters. But this is also, of course, an emergency. Funding the government, making sure that those workers have their pay, and making sure those who are served by important programs like the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And of course, we could make a long list of programs that are important to people's lives. In the case of the so-called SNAP program, what we used to call food stamps, you're talking basically about children, seniors, and people with disabilities. That's most of the people that get benefits from the SNAP program. They are only guaranteed help from that program through February. February. There's no certainty about March. There's no certainty about April or the forthcoming months. That's just one program that serves millions of Americans, that already is adversely impacted because of the shutdown. So whether you're talking about a mom or a dad who is a federal employee, or whether you're talking about someone who needs the help of the federal government, people that we have said over many generations deserve that help. In either case, it's unacceptable to them, and it should be unacceptable to us to not have the government open. We've got lots of time to debate many issues after that, but priority one has to be open the government, and then we have a lot of time for debate on a range of issues.